The scale is not the most accurate way of measuring how much body fat you've got on you, and one of the most popular ways of actually measuring that is your body fat percentage. But what is the ideal body fat percentage, and how can you accurately measure that? Well, I'm going to get into it in this video, and some of what I'm going to say may actually surprise you. Hello fam, and welcome to my channel. My name's Melissa Neal, and this channel is all about helping you, if you're a woman over 40 or like me over 50, get in amazing shape. And one of the biggest questions that I get asked is, what's your body fat percentage, Melissa? And actually, I've got to say, in actual fact, I don't have an accurate measurement of my own body fat percentage. And I actually don't really care, to be quite honest with you. But I'm going to get into the 4 most popular methods, and actually what the most accurate method of measuring your body fat percentage is. And then I'm going to talk kind of at the end of this video about what you can do to measure yourself, whether you're kind of dropping body fat. There are 4 key ways that people generally measure their body fat percentage. And the first one, and probably the most popular one that I'm going to talk about, is the scale. So as well as measuring your weight, there are loads of scales out there that give you your bone mass, your body fat percentage, your BMI, all sorts of information, how much water even you've got in your body. But I have to say, I actually got approached by a scale company who assured me that their scales were spot on, they were really great, and they actually sent me those scales. And when I got sent the scales, I realised when I started weighing myself on them that they're actually completely wrong. And so, you know, I won't take any sponsorships, and I won't make videos about products that I don't believe in. And so I quickly realised and contacted them and said, you know, I'm not going to work with you because I don't like these scales, they're not accurate. And I would say in the main, that is the same for any of those at-home bathroom scales that also measure body fat. And I'm going to show you now a screen share of what I found when I was doing this myself. So I'm in the app that's connected to the scale that records all sorts of information. And as you can see, that's my weight at the top, which is 51.6 kilos. So that's about 114 pounds. Now, I'm just going to take you through a bit of the information that it gives on the scale. And I'm going to show you the previous information so you can see what's wrong here. So when you scroll down, you can see, as well as my weight, it's got something called BFP, which is body fat percentage. And it actually has me at 5%. Now, looking at what I look like, I would say I'm more like maybe 18%, possibly even 20%. Now, I'll tell you why you can see this is wrong. So if you go into history and look at what my weight was maybe a little while ago when I was, 56 kilos there, and it has a body fat percentage of 22%. So I've only lost like 4 kilos on the scale, which is probably about 9 or 10 pounds. And it's got me, reduced my body fat percentage, which you can see on the right-hand side there is 22.4 to now, which is 5%. So that cannot possibly be right. So you can see that it's just not accurate getting your body fat percentage in one of those bathroom scales, and they're pretty much all the same. Let's move to the next way of measuring your body fat percentage, and this has been going on for many years, and I actually had this done at the gym, and that is using a set of calipers. Now, there's quite a complicated formula, so you've got to take all these measurements with the caliper, and you kind of pull your fat out here, and then you put this caliper on and you kind of measure it. But you really need somebody that really knows what they're doing to measure that accurately. And I've had that done by a couple of people in gyms many years ago, before I actually went on my fitness journey. And if they're experienced and they're good at doing this, they can do that. So you can, with calipers, and you can buy them on Amazon, you can get a good idea if you have somebody professional that really knows what you're doing, and you have a good benchmark at the start of your process, and then you can measure yourself throughout the process, and you're going to give yourself like an idea of whether your body fat percentage is changing. The next one, and I would say this is the most accurate one, but it is expensive, and that's getting a DEXA scan. A DEXA scan, you have to go to a specialist. They often have them maybe in gyms or training centres or health centres where they do screening. You will often find a DEXA scan, and it gives you body fat percentage, bone mass, all sorts of information, and it is very accurate. However, it is expensive, and you've got to ask yourself, is if you have that done, are you going to continue to have it done? And there's a cost attached to that. And then what are you going to do with that information? So that's why I decided I've never had a DEXA scan, so I actually don't really know what my body fat percentage is, which leads me to the number 4 way, and this is kind of what I go on, and it's quite blunt really, and that's getting, and you can get these online, you can get a diagram. Now if you're female, it's pretty important that you use a female one and not a male one, because as females our body fat percentage is different, and our ideal body fat percentages are quite different compared to men. It's much higher, so we naturally have more fat on our body. So you take one of these online diagrams, or they're like a series of pictures, and then you literally match your picture up with the closest one to you, and that's going to give you an idea. And to be honest, I prefer that than using the scale. Calipers might be slightly better, but you've got to find someone to do that for you that's good at it. So I actually prefer that than the scale, looking at pictures, and that's exactly what I do with my own body. I actually look at the pictures and look how the pictures are changing, and if you wanted to match up with one of those body fat percentage kind of diagrams or series of pictures, so you can see this picture of me, then you can see these series of pictures, and I would pretty much match my body fat percentage up to maybe 18-19% body fat, something like that, maybe even 20%. That's what I go on. That's what I look at. I look at my own images. I tend to kind of compare myself with myself rather than anybody else really. Myself with previous images and whether the images are changing. I also tend to like pull bits of my fat out so I can tell, yes, you know, in the last 3 to 4 months my body fat percentage probably has gone down because I can't pull so much flesh here, that kind of thing. So you can use that as a bit of a test on yourself, and you can stand in front of do it on a video as well. It's pretty good. And then the other way is actually taking your measurements. So, you know, if your waist measurement is going down, that's quite a good sign that your body fat percentage is going down. And if, in my opinion, you shouldn't actually pay too much attention to actual body fat. But if you wanted a range of kind of where you think your body fat percentage is, it's like anywhere between something like 18 and 28% body fat percentage is a good range for women, especially in this age category. If you're on the upper end of that, you're still in pretty good shape, to be honest with you, and that's like a healthy range. But I really like to go on other markers like waist to height ratio. So your waist should measure half of your height, and then you know you're in a pretty good place with your health. Or you can do waist to hip ratio as well. So your waist to hip ratio, what you do is you take your waist measurement and divide it by your hip measurement. So for example, with me, my waist is currently 25 inches and my hip is 37 inches. So if I divide that, I get a figure of 0.67. And what you want is a figure of 0.85 or below. And then if you've got that as a female, I'm talking about the female ratio, not the male ratio, then you're in a good place. Those markers like hip to waist ratio and waist to height ratio are much more important than inaccurate body fat percentages, and pictures tell 1,000 words. So comment below with what you actually think about body fat percentage. Is it something you're considering? Have I kind of changed your mind about taking that as a measurement and reading off the scale? Because I've actually shown you that that's a big problem, and it can actually derail you if you've got information that isn't quite right. It can actually really make you think that you're not achieving success when you actually are.